a second. Oh, there we go. We are live. Okay. Well, hello, Jenny. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be with you here. This is my
It's
first
so
Substack Live, so I'm super.
okay. Okay, that's awesome. I'm so excited to be your first Substack Live convo, and I know this is going to be a good one because we had such an interesting conversation earlier this week. And I just said we have to do a Substack Live on this because it is such a fascinating topic. And it was so much more fascinating than I actually even thought. You know, when we started to speak, I was like, all these sort of balls were dropping and all these kind of insights were dropping. And I was like, okay, this is fascinating. And I really want us to give a little bit of a taster of this to people who are joining, because we're going to be doing a workshop on this on Sunday in the Sensitive Sisterhood. And yeah, I just want everyone to get a little bit of a taster of this because it's so interesting. So anyone who's joining, welcome. Thank you for being here. I see there's about 10 of you already. So thanks for joining, everybody. Trace, Grace, I see a few. Alan, Michelle, hello, everyone. So I want to just do a quick introduction. So Jenny is, I mean, I want you to actually do the introduction, Jenny, but I came across Jenny a couple of months ago on Substack. We started to chat and just found out there was really interesting synergy, you know, in terms of the work that she's doing and what I'm doing. And, you know, I think so many of us have a very complicated relationship with food and body image, and especially if you're highly sensitive or neurodivergent. And I'm so glad that we connected because it's just turned into this really interesting dialogue. And I feel like I've really sort of started unpacking my own history with food, and my own sort of new insights has been dropping when I wrote my newsletter this week on the topic. So I would just love to hand over to you, Jenny. Please tell us who you are, you know, what is the work that you do, and just love to hear a bit more about your story.
Yeah, so thank you for having me on. I'm really excited for our workshop on Sunday. And I am definitely a highly sensitive person. I wasn't aware of that until much, much later, like recently. And you're absolutely right. It really is a very different experience eating and food and body. It's under the lens of a highly sensitive person because our nervous systems are different than people who are not, sensitive. And so once you can accept that and honor that versus like pretend that you're not sensitive so that you don't want to, be the annoying one at the restaurant or whatever. Once you've like sort of realized like, okay, this is who I am. But now I can figure out how to best nourish myself under these circumstances, right? So my background I have a master's in psychology and education. And then right after grad school, I worked at a national health and weight management company for 13 years. And during that time, it was like full on diet culture. Like it was a calorie meal replacement type diet that we ran. And I used to run the classes and do counseling with the people. And I realized like, wow, people are doing this like very low calorie, very like Spartan, like very draconian almost type of dieting where yes, they're getting the nutrients, but like what's missing here? There's no pleasure with food. Everyone was like talking about how awful the food was. And I kept thinking like, I've been there 13 years, but I kept thinking like, is this really helping people or is this like keeping people in diet culture? And, with that emphasis on like losing weight at all costs. And I finally, when I got my certification in eating psychology, I started my own practice and I realized just how pernicious it was to like put everybody in this one category. Like, this is how you lose weight, everybody. Everybody needs to do this like 800 calorie diet and over exercise. And it was exactly what I did. And in fact, the company asked me to do one of their diets. I remember being very both offended and also being like, I'll show you, I can do it. And I remember doing a lot of the diets. And because I'm sensitive, my reactions to it were much stronger than other people. The hunger that I felt was so intense, which affected my blood sugar and I would feel shaky. And when, as a sensitive person, I'm so hyper aware of all my internal sensations and discomforts. So it really made it very, very difficult, both emotionally and physically on me. So that's when I decided, this is about 10 years ago, like, I'm never dieting again. I'm going to
Mm,
on how making my body feel good and finding ways to eat in a way that is aligned with who I am, with my constitution, with my personality, with my
mm,
trade. Nothing to be ashamed about. Um,
mm,
so, very recently I have shifted my focus. I've always been an eating psychology coach, and I'm also a culinary nutritionist, which just means
mm,
I focus a lot on how food can be healing. Um, to our
mm,
how you can use food as medicine in some ways, and also helping people to develop home cooking skills and meal planning skills from a mindful place. And in my Substack, which is Just One More Bite with Jenny Berk, I focus a lot on sensory science because that,
mm,
again, that's really salient to people who are sensitive to be able to use their grounding techniques, using their senses in order um, to calm their nervous systems. Because when you
mm,
eat calm place versus a stressed place or a sympathetic nervous system state, the outcomes are going to be way different than when you simply take a few minutes to let your sensitive nervous system sort of settle, and you're eating and making
mm,
choices from a really calm, peaceful place, as opposed to you're multitasking, you're eating while you're driving, you're shaming yourself for
mhm,
choices you made. You know, you're
mm,
you know that this food will make your stomach hurt, but
mm.
you need to feel comforted in the moment. Like, there are so many things that can be out of alignment. So, like, really what I focus on now with mostly women, but also sensitive men too, is um, how to work with your nervous system so that eating can be a really beautiful, joyful sensory experience rather than this
Mm.
overwhelming or uncomfortable one.
Oh, there's just so much there in what you've just said. I mean, I'm sure many people that are tuning in are literally shaking their heads, and just there's so much resonance. And I'm sure many of us have had very similar experiences with diet culture and yeah, just kind of the damage that can do and has done to so many of us in terms of our relationship with food and our bodies.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know you've touched on some of the sort of techniques and tools, and I'm excited to dive more into that on Sunday, where we're going to really go into that in depth, because our sensitivities, yeah, can be a bit of a hindrance when it comes to food, but there's also kind of a superpower aspect to that as well, that we can like supercharge the enjoyment of enjoying food, and actually our bodies can probably process the food a lot better in certain circumstances if we're kind of utilizing different kind of techniques. So I'm excited to learn more about that then. But I mean, just to touch a little bit on my own personal story as well, I wrote a little bit about that this week. I also started a diet very, very early on, sort of a health fad diet. It was all under the guise of health from a homeopath, and was cutting out gluten, sugar, wheat, all these dairy, and a lot of these things when I was about 11 or 12 years old.
Wow.
And yeah, that's super young. And also, I started losing quite a lot of weight, and I was an overweight child. So I actually, this became quite an addictive thing to be able to lose weight. And suddenly I felt, oh, I just want to lose more weight and more weight and more weight. And I just stopped eating. I was just eating very plain things, chicken breast, and just very, minimal, and exercising on the bike a lot. And so I lost a bunch of weight, but I very, very quickly the pendulum swung to the other end, and that sort of scarcity mentality and mindset really kicked in, and I developed a binge eating disorder and picked up loads of weight and started this sort of yo-yo dieting journey that went on for another 12, 15 years, and it was just very awful. I never trusted myself around food. I couldn't enjoy food. It was always wrapped up in guilt. My body would react as well to food. It was almost like my body was rejecting food in some instances. Became very fussy around what I was eating because there was so much anxiety wrapped up in it. And I think this was really irritating to family members and my mom cooking for me, or, partners, even in romantic relationships, like being in a relationship and having to deal with the sort of like sensitivity with food and the like sort of complicated relationship with food has been challenging. But yeah, I mean, I think it was also for me about 10 years ago when I started sort of discovering the anti-diet movement and intuitive eating, and really just like retraining my brain away from dieting mentality and more sort of working around body neutrality and like accepting my body as is. I don't have to love every single part of my body, but I can be more neutral. And that's totally fine. And yeah, just improving my relationship with food, trying to enjoy food more and not sort of limiting the foods. But the one thing that I will say is the complication with sensitive people and neurodivergent people is there's often sort of chronic conditions that are linked to food. And, some people really struggle with dairy, struggle with gluten, or have to have quite a limited diet in terms of what they can eat. And that's kind of a catch-22 because it may not be for diet, losing weight purposes, but it's more for this food really is going to hurt me. And then it also kind of creates this strange sort of scarcity as well. So what can you speak to in terms of like more the health challenge side of sensitivity and food?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up. And I really resonate with your story. I think a lot of us do, of this sort of starting at a very young age, which is confusing because we don't totally know who we are at that age. And we're told like, oh, don't be so sensitive. Don't be so picky, like this and that. I know that I got that a lot. I remember I was young. I had like a tantrum in a restaurant once because the ravioli was green as opposed to white, like just getting really up in arms about it. But like, in terms of the binge eating that you were talking about, it's very common because, and we talked about this a little bit, but when you have this scarcity mindset and this restriction mindset, it's like sandpaper on your arm. Like you can tolerate it and you can tolerate it, but eventually, you're at a party and you just want cake, or you're so black and white about it and so stringent about it, because a lot of neurodivergent and sensitive people are pretty perfectionistic, black and white controlling in some ways. And we talked about this when we spoke, because I didn't have the binge eating, but I had orthorexia, which is like when I was sort of obsessed with making sure the food was clean, and like I
Yeah.
I sourced the best kale from the best mountaintop. I don't know, like just it had to be like, and then
Yeah.
like you, I was having some issues as well. And what I learned is that when you are sensitive, you can transition from parasympathetic to sympathetic and back more quickly. And so what that means is you're going to have physical manifestations of that. And,
Mm.
one of those things is indigestion, right? And if
Mm.
you like has IBS, for instance, a lot of it is because of chronic stress. And you may find that when you're anxious or stressed or emotional or even like overwhelmed, your digestion like shuts down. For other people,
Mm.
you're starving and you're ravenous and you just need your comfort food, no matter what the end outcome is of that.
Yeah.
And I went to see a doctor, and like you, I was vegan already, but I had to give up gluten because she said I was gluten sensitive. And I think
Mm.
a lot of highly sensitive people have food sensitivities, food allergies, autoimmune diseases, and
Mm.
different things that exasperate the certain conditions. And I remembered like it brought to mind when I had given up gluten for like, I don't know, 8 or 9 months. And
Wow.
because I'm rigid, I can be so rigid, I was like perfect about it and wouldn't have a single bite of bread or anything. And then, like we said, when you're putting like self-imposed restrictions on yourself, right? Because it's
Mm.
it's very similar, like when the diet starts Monday, or like you finish a diet and then you end up like eating whatever you want. I was so restrictive being a vegan and gluten free that I went to this
Mm.
party and I ate like an entire pizza, literally. And I was like, I felt awful and I felt defeated and I felt like a failure. And it really took me a while to realize like, well, you set this up for yourself because you are putting so much into your restriction that it's literally putting me in a chronic stress response because I'm not enjoying food. I'm not feeling safe. I don't trust myself. You talked
Mhm.
about trust, like I don't trust.
Mhm.
And I feel like when you as a sensitive person, we as a sensitive people, when we can bring compassion rather than shame, and when we can learn to use our senses to ground us and to eat mindfully, then your prefrontal cortex is online more, which means that your breath is more stabilized. It means your digestion is primed for eating. If you are, let's for instance say, God forbid, you're being chased by a bear, your body isn't thinking about eating, like having a nice 3-hour meal and like eating, your food. You're thinking about survival, right? And so
Mm,
day in, day out, we have these like little mini situations where we are put into that stress response. And so
mm,
if we try to eat while we're in that stress response, we may not even be aware that we're in that stress response. Not only are you potentially eating faster, causing just distress to the GI system, you're not absorbing the nutrients of your food as well, and you are setting yourself up for other types of physiological problems, like reflux and GERD and
mm,
that. So um, if you think about it, when you are fully calm, like imagine getting a massage, right? After a massage, you're not
mm,
like you're not like thinking, I'm gonna go to McDonald's and get some fast food and I'm really stressed and I'm
mm.
really fast. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, maybe I'll have a nice smoothie, or like maybe you feel
Yeah.
relaxed. And that's when your brain can really taste the food. That's when your brain could say, "Ooh,
Mm,
this is good. I got what I needed from this and I can move on from my day." And that is so empowering and so freeing because that's when you can trust your body. When you talked about body neutrality, this is also about not about loving your body, but about trusting,
mm,
communicating, and respecting your body. And
mm.
respecting great as a highly sensitive person. Because if you try to pretend it's not there, it's going to make the problem maybe worse. But if you
Yeah.
say to sensitive, that's okay. I can advocate for myself. When I go to a restaurant, I'm always like, "Hey, just so you know, I'm the annoying one. I'm going to be, I'm the vegan asking if there's any blah blah blah. Is the soup chicken broth or is it, like?" And everyone's rolling their eyes. But you know what? I say it in advance. Just so you know, this is how I am. Or what I'll do is, and we're going to talk a lot more about this on Sunday and all the different techniques that I've developed and used over time. But, you know, even looking at the menu ahead of time, it's such a
Yeah.
small little thing, but it's like, okay,
Totally.
I see they have a harvest bowl with chicken. I can ask for it with chicken without the chicken. Or if you're gluten free, you can look online and be like, oh, okay, good. They have a rice dish that I can have. Just takes a little of that pressure off because I feel like also there's an element of social anxiety around food.
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother,
Totally.
right? We could talk about.
That's a whole nother level as well. And I mean, I totally look up menus before I go to them as well. Um, I also was vegan at one point. I was vegetarian for many years and vegan for a year. And I mean, we were speaking about this the other day, how that also brings about challenges. I mean, in many different ways, but also like the attention that it draws. Like also with any kind of food particularities, the
Mhm.
attention suddenly gets drawn to you, like if at a party or in a restaurant. And I absolutely hated that. I think people who are highly sensitive or neurodivergent often have a fear of being perceived. And so when the attention suddenly turns to me and the chef realizes that, oh, they haven't cooked anything vegan, and it's suddenly this massive outpouring and drama scene that sort of ensues. It's literally was the worst thing. And I think that was also one of the reasons why I just couldn't continue that. I mean, there was also some health related stuff as well, but just the sort of attention and the uncomfortability that also brings, the social anxiety, just it really, and then that just exacerbates the anxiety around food as well.
It's so valid. And, we did touch on that a little bit when we spoke, is like, it's very hard to determine, like, this food doesn't always agree with me, but at the same time, this is giving me pleasure, or like you have to sort of
Mm,
how it's going to affect your body. And sometimes, like, some foods are okay sometimes and not okay others. And it's okay to experiment and see what's fitting for you. But in terms of like being perceived, like I 100% resonate with that because it it's very uncomfortable, especially if you have a weight or diet history where you feel like the spotlight on your food, you're eating too much, you're eating too light, you're not eating the healthy.
Yeah.
It can be really exhausting, and your brain is just constantly in decision anxiety. Should I have this? Should I have
Mm,
that? What about this? This is the healthier choice. This is the food that I really want. And it can be very, very over.
mm,
Not to mention that I think it's really important. We'll talk more on Sunday about this, but it's really important to set up your food environments in a way that is calming. And it's not always
mm,
possible, right? We know it's not always possible, but when you can, I love to eat alone actually because of that. I love to be
mm,
able to put some music on and put some ambiance lighting and just sort of like set the tone for a peaceful meal. There's both the environmental factor, but then there's also the thoughts and beliefs that you have internally. Those thoughts and beliefs
mm,
are just as triggering to your nervous system as an external threat, right? So if you're saying, "Oh,
mm.
I'm less sensitive. If only I didn't have this autoimmune disease. If only I didn't, you know, f- absorb everyone else's energy at the table. If only so, if only they turn the music down at the restaurant without me
Yes.
asked." You know, it can be something where you accept your trait and then you
Mm,
work to, as best you can, it's not gonna be perfect, to set up environments that are gonna support your nutrition and digestion and absorption of nutrients, because the goal here is always, how do I fuel this vessel in a way that makes me feel empowered, that makes me feel good, that allows me to thrive in life and do the things that I
mm.
want to. That's really what it comes
Yeah.
down to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just reflecting as well when you spoke about energy, absorbing the energy. And I think that's such a big one when it comes to sensitive people. And I think that's also why, big events, Christmas dinners, and all these things can be so intense for highly sensitive people. And, all the energy that's around it, the energy within the food even, like what are you eating? Where does it come from? Like we
Mhm.
spoke about that the other day as well. There's such an energetic level that's happening at the same time. And I think it comes down to like the depth of processing that we also touched on. Like highly sensitive people process things much deeper. They take in so much more information in the environment. So a nice casual meal or get together is never as simple as that. It's one person might be having one experience, but if you're highly sensitive, you're having a very different experience, and there's a lot to contend with. I mean, the music, you're at a coffee store and the coffee grinder is going or the smoothie blender is going, and it's just like an assault to the system. Or the lighting. I mean, for me, lighting is just like horrific, like LED lights, blue lights everywhere. And that's actually why I wear these glasses, they blue light filtering. And it's just, in so many restaurants, like there is just all this kind of noise, and it can be very challenging. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to learning a bit more strategies to navigate the world, because we don't want to be just hidden away from society and not going and enjoying these things and not being at the party, not being at the Christmas events, not being at the restaurants. Like, I think the point is for us to be in the world and thrive and actually turn the hindrance into the superpower and find the ways and tools to do that, so we can really just live more enjoyable lives and participate more in life and not be constant observers, because I think often we can also fall into that role of observing everything around and not actually embodying life and being in life with everyone else, being in the moment, enjoying the moment with people without feeling constantly pulled away from all these other distractions. So yeah, very excited for diving into that a little bit deeper. Um, Tell us a little bit what people can expect for Sunday. What kind of things will we be learning, or what are we going to walk away with after the session?
Yeah, so we're going to discuss more about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic as it relates to sensitive people and how we can use you mentioned that it can be a superpower, right? That it doesn't
Mm,
have to be a liability. And I 100% believe that. In fact, I think because we have that depth of processing and the sensory awareness, we experience sensory overwhelm so easily, right? But if you think about it, that means we can taste food. There are a lot of super tasters, right, who are sensitive. We
mm,
enjoy our food. We notice textures, we notice flavors, temperatures. Everything is enhanced and heightened, But so you can use that as a gift, as not only that,
mm,
but aesthetically. Like somebody who just feels much calmer in a sort of beautiful environment, in a peaceful environment, and I like to present my food in a way that is kind of minimal and it doesn't, some people love their food all mixed up. I love presentation and I love even just looking at food, at beautiful plates and stuff like that. And even doing that, really, it's a dopamine situation where you can then it
mm,
helps you to, okay, I'm getting some positive neurotransmitters here and I can use this as a way to ground myself in the moment. So we're going to talk
mm,
about we're going to talk about a five senses reset. So, something you can do with each of your senses around food to help bring you back to the moment. We're also going to talk about how to set up your environment in ways
mm.
what your sensitivity and meal planning. A lot of this has to do with energy capacity. And when you
Yeah.
overwhelmed with noises and smells and motions and everything else, it can feel really draining. And so you might be like,
Mm,
don't want to make pasta pesto right now. Like I just want to grab whatever's on the table, right? And make this over. But what we're going to
mm,
do is be able to show you how to use your sensory sensitivity as well as your depth of processing to make meals really, really enjoyable and fun.
mm,
And we're going to discuss ways to advocate for yourself and create boundaries with people. It's often hard to create boundaries. I'm not great at it, but with practice, I'm getting better. And I actually have a PDF that I can offer your audience too on Sunday. That it's basically an HSP guide for stress eating, and I would, be
Oh,
happy
amazing.
to have that. But we're going to discuss all of that as well. It's going to be great. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you guys are excited. And for those watching, if you have comments or questions or things that you're like, oh, I really want her to touch on this, like please put a comment, let me know, and we'll get to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So really, yeah, that PDF sounds amazing. Definitely take you up on that. But yes, very excited for Sunday. And hoping that everyone can join us. Just gonna drop in the link here into the comment section. So come join us on Sunday. It's our Sensitive Sisterhood. So we run it once every Sunday. We have an amazing sensitive speaker come on and just help us turn our senses into superpowers. This month we're talking about eating. Next month we're talking about sobriety even. We talk about all different things related to business and work and how do we, just become the best versions of ourselves. So very excited for Sunday and I hope to see many of you there. And yeah, thanks so much for joining today, Jenny. It's been such an awesome conversation. I feel like we could just talk about this forever. There is so much. I mean, we've touched on such a small percentage of this because this goes very deep. And I think I'm really excited to just go into that a lot deeper with you on Sunday. So yeah, thanks for dialing in today, and thanks for everyone for joining us today. And yeah, really excited to continue this conversation.
Me too. We'll see you on Sunday. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you there.